Germs and ladies and germs. Echo. I got two microphones there, don't I? I did just restart my computer, so now the other microphone is on. Go up here to that, and just mute that. Hello. Well, that's a little better with my not so good setup here. Anyways, Uncanny Kodiak here. I don't have much of a following. I don't have any of a following. This is more for document purposes, documentation of where I got my start here, drawing on YouTube, trying to join in with the community that I've found here. I am working in blue pencil here, trying to figure out a pose from my original character. Now, this is really the first time I'm putting out a lot of information about my character out online. I have had this character since cooking since 1999. There's been several evolutions of him, and he is actually part of a story that is an ensemble cast of characters, revolving door, but he's kind of your main guy. He's also got kind of the Captain America Optimus Prime vibe about him. He's the I don't know why I have an echo still. I definitely have an echo still. So let's see if we can fix that. So nervous or self-conscious. I'm trying to get used to speaking, get used to this setup, work out the kinks as I've been trying for the past couple weeks. Um, Come on, get it there. We'll get there eventually. You ever do something so many times you forget it and you feel like a total old person because you can't remember the simplest thing you do day to day? All right. Testing one, two, three. Testing one, two, three. I just, I don't get what's going on here. Testing. All right, so I have one uh, microphone. I'm kind of hoping that you don't hear the echo that I hear. Um, I have the most generic, cheap setup that you can get, um, as you can tell from what you're seeing, if you ever watch these, whoever you may be. All right, so what I'm trying to work here is blue pencil, trying to work with my original character, whose name is Spear, Spear. It's just a call name or a uh, nickname, whereas this character actually no one knows his real name. No big mystery attempt there. No digging deep into that fact. It's just, it's just the thing. No one knows his name, and he is a club president of a motorcycle gang, uh, who, funny enough, kind of fronts as a outlaw motorcycle gang. Why would you front as an outlaw motorcycle game? One, it gives you perks as far as finding weapons and other means of getting uh, money to support your cause. But the motorcycle club is a group of supernatural hunters. Um, each one of them having their own reason for finding out about things uh, paranormal, and I'm also working on several characters that just join after finding out. Because of course you always have to go with, and I don't want to say cliche. I don't want to say cliche character, just the architect. Okay, of the person who's had the trauma starts hunting demons and ghouls and ghosts and goblins because they've had a they've I don't know where I'm going with this hand here. Come on, I should jump over here somewhere. This is what I want to do. Sorry about the noise in the background. My office is not closed off from the rest of the house, and I can't stop the family from having their dinner and having a good time together. Um, I'm a very lucky man that I get to do what I do, so I don't want to impede on them too much. At the same time, I just gotta start getting out there, getting my voice out there, so that I can get my story, the Scorpion's Tale, um, uh, out there and start maybe working with better artists than myself. I actually desire not to draw the story. I know the look I want, but I'm no great artist, as you can tell. So I definitely am not a disciplined artist, which would it take to panel out the story, and which is what I'll be looking for if I ever get to the point of starting an Indiegogo, which is uh, I know several artists that I want to work. Um, one is somebody that's I'm hoping is quickly becoming a friend. He's a type of mentor to me online, Elliot Fernandez. And if he's not interested in doing panel, I would love him to do uh, covers for me and other work. But there's other artists out there if he's not interested. And what I'm looking for is kind of an homage, a payback to the days of 70s pulp magazines, the bigger ones, not the Marvel Conan Barbarian, but the bigger, what was it, Comics Key? Basically, your Vampirilla, your Heavy Metal Magazine 2, because that had a whole bunch of different, really dramatic, crazy art. But like your Eerie magazine. So there's going to be touches of that black and white. And what I want to do in a non, because everybody says Frank Miller, and what Frank Miller did was great with his selective color. Black and white with selective color, and I'm of course talking about mostly Sin City. But with Scorpion's Tail, if I can't do it with a selective color, I want it black and white. But ideally, what it's made for, and this actually doesn't come from somebody like Frank Miller. I'm actually thinking of something I found out with the commentary from the show, the movie The Sixth Sense, where you come to find out that after you've watched the movie the first time and you feel like, how did I miss that? This how did I miss what the eventual plot twist at the end? And then M Night Shyamalan's like, well, I did plant all kinds of hints every time Bruce Willis goes to when he goes to open his door, going down to his study. There's a red knob. When he goes to have dinner with his wife, there's a red handkerchief, I believe. But he uses red to highlight something important. And I don't want to go all that, and I don't want to do the selective red thing. I'm a big fan of that. I used to do that in my photography. manipulate the photos and then add red with it. Love it. Uh, but that's not what I'm looking for because there's certain other colors, like the fact that the Scorpions colors their uh, motorcycle club colors is I was thinking purple and white. Yeah, I'm gonna go with that. But I definitely know purple. Spear, this character that I'm kind of doodling on now or figuring this thing out now, he is a he wears a purple bandana with the Scorpion's tail logo on top of it, and so that's something that every now and then would be highlighted. Where everything else is black and white, you'd have a purple bandana, or you'd have a red blood spot or a yellow. So it's not just one color. It's not just red. It's it's not just one off. It's all through the magazine. You have a selective color because I don't want to overthink it as well. Because, like I said, that's kind of your homage back to your '70s pulp magazines. At least that's what I call them. But I'm talking about the big giant magazines of Conan, um, and how they had so much art. If you open those things, but they're not popping out actually jumping. They're not dynamic, which I'm a huge fan of dynamic. My original idea for this drawing was to have him more towards the to have excuse me I'm to have him more coming towards the camera, if you will. But I'm just not good at that type of thing. But not only that, over the time of researching the old 1970s comic books that were black and white, also a big fan of, I guess, not retroly, but kind of fairly new to being a fan of the comic book of Supernatural. After I fell out being a fan of the show, someone says, "Well, that's because you need to go back. You need to go to the comic book. You need to read the comic book." I read the comic book. Guys, can you quiet down, please? I read the comic book and I became a fan of the simplistic, the amount of dialogue they was able to go with and still keep you interested. There was no big giant splash pages. It just worked. It just works. There's so many things about, and everybody knows him that just works about the way they draw and go after uh, the Walking Dead comic book. Now, if you excuse me a minute, I'll be right back. Bust out the parental skills there for a second. Anyway, so became a big fan of the storytelling in The Walking Dead, and I don't think it intends to pay homage to the old '70s at all. But in a way, in the way I look at things, it does. It just tells the story. It doesn't try to do splash page after splash page, although there is really good splash pages in The Walking Dead. So I'm inspired by uh, the way Tony Adler and Kirkman put that thing together. I think that's really. I think it for a black and white comic book, it's one of the most interesting books out there. Um, it's definitely the only thing keeping me wanting to pay $50 for like a small bound volume or whatever. It's true. This thing would have to come out. So So, anyways, this is the leader that I'm drawing, the leader of uh, the motorcycle club called the Scorpion's Tail. Um, he is, um, like I said, kind of the loving father figure when he leads. Very protective, very, you know, I don't want to say old because that doesn't make sense, but Boy Scoutish. Um, but he definitely has his flaws, and he definitely has a backstory that is very interesting. But uh, I don't know. Now that I'm having to change my format of what I've always wanted him to be, which was, oh, well, originally I wanted him to be anime because I was a kid when I made him young adult, and that's what I wanted. I was getting interested in. And then I went back to my roots, which is comic books. Realized he fit in a comic book, or the whole story, not just him. Um, uh, Fit into the world of comic books, whereas where I believe he belonged. And what was I saying? I lost my track of thought. If you haven't noticed, there's still nobody in the chat, but I'm hoping that maybe sometime in the future somebody will go back and look at this. And this is, like I said, this is the first time that I've really put this amount of stuff that I plan to put out about this story on the internet. I've been very protective of the thing because it's my baby. Uh, I come up with a thing before there was a supernatural show, before there was a Sons of Anarchy show, and I've definitely had friends tell me, well, there's definitely this vibe, this reminiscence of those two shows. And I'm like, I can see that, but that's just because it's an occult show. That's just because, or a cult story, and that's just because uh, it's a story about bikers. But that's where it stops. It goes. It's got its own lore. I deal with Abrahamic lore, so all three of the Abrahamic religions. I toy with it heavily. That is something that was actually inspired by when my wife got me into supernatural. I was inspired to, if you're going to create a world, you know, even an occult world, uh, and you're going to deal with Christian lore, Hebrew lore, um, Islam lore, you know, you're just making a make believe. So make it your own world, you know. You can take things uh, that are bred in antiquity, twist them. You can also take lose my train of thought here. You can also take I don't even know where I'm going with this. Oh, I guess the thing too should be. I think he's out. I think he's out of ammo here, and I wanna. This is why I actually had this out, but it's not really this that I need to reference. It's something that I lost. This little oversized pistol I had, um, where it was locked open. Where the hell did that thing go? Anyways, I just decided very early on that I was going to. So a genie in my story isn't going to be like a genie. It's like, well, a genie won't do that. Well, a genie in another story might not do that, you know. But there is so much stuff out there that is so interesting when you deal into relics and in uh, ancient religion, especially with the big three. It's fascinating. It's fascinating how much they have that they're similar. It's fascinating how much they have that they're not similar. It's fascinating that Solomon, a lot of uh, nuanced religion, even as far up to like Wicca, believes that Solomon was the first sorcerer, and there's a lot of writings he did that's very interesting, in 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 Islam, I believe they believe might no, it's Islam. They believe that I don't like this. I'm gonna change this, but they definitely believe that Solomon enslaved at one time a jinn, and I'm still doing my research and finding some information and ways to twist that. But the first issue of the Scorpion's Tale just basically deals with um, introducing Spear. It does introduce a character called Thies, and that's pretty much it of the Scorpion's Tale. Even though it's more of an ensemble, it was something I wrote very early on. Losing, not like these guys that can just draw without any brackets and sit there and talk, distract myself, and then I lose. Of course, I don't know what I want to do. Um. Anyways, I think any story should build its own world. Anything story worth its merit should build its own world. You shouldn't be afraid of that. Even if you're going in and dealing with Christianity, uh, Jewish lore, uh, anything Abrahamic, or since my base is the Abrahamic religions, I'm going to here it is. By the way, I'm going to throw in uh, like how does Greek lore how would Greek lore fit in if it was taken and exaggerated to the point where it became Greek lore, but it was born as if the Abrahamic religions were true. So how do I basically, through fables and stories, they told the story of, well, that's Norse mythology, but they told the story of Thor. But Thor, that became legend, but somehow that's just a distorted. How does Thor fit into Abrahamic religion in my story? That's how, because in my story, Abrahamic religion would have to be the base. It would have to be the truth. Everything would have to fit in. So if you was to throw Thor's hammer, a Norse god, you'd have to find out how he fit in with angels and demons and devils and gods of the Abrahamic religion. Um, so I basically have had plenty of time to work on that. I have some things written down. Sometimes I read over those and they're stupid and I get rid of them, and sometimes I read over them and they're great. Uh, but I have a world that gets really deep with the Scorpion's Tail, like why he starts hunting. He personally, why does the leader, um, what is that called? He's not just the chapter president. He's the president over the entire Scorpion's Tail, and the Scorpion's Tail uh, badge or motorcycle club. They're everywhere. They're literally in Egypt. They're all over America. His base is the what is it called? The lead chapter, which is in Nevada, the desert. You know, and he's actually not the person who started or began the the scorpion's tail. The scorpion's tail was actually started by a Native American man, his friend, back in the 70s. And that kind of, and and Spear here is his partner in creating a second in command at that time and up until his death. Um, but that brings me to the point of something about Spear. He looks like a 30-year-old man. He looked like a 30-year-old man in the 1970s. He looked like a 30-year-old man in the 1950s. There are only a few people who realize he's as old as he is. And in that, I see something's, when I look up to the screen, I can see it now. You can see my hand wanting to go off because it's reversed. But the reverse mirror image that I'm looking in my computer screen is showing me some things that don't quite look right. Like when I look down at the page, it looks different. But this, um, yeah, I'm gonna look down at my page. This area up on the screen looks thinner and not proportionate to this area. But down on the page, what I'm looking at, it looks fine. Even when I reverse it to the correct mirrored image on the screen on my monitor, it still looks distorted, but that's only on my screen. Down here on my page, it looks right, which is weird. Don't know what I'm seeing. So this is that muscle right there, which all this is going to disappear. I just want to know what's up under there. Now, he's supposed to be in an action pose. He's supposed to be being shot up. It's kind of leaning backwards. This is supposed to disappear and go black. And I actually kind of want to maybe. What am I doing? That's not okay. All the great city. Look at your own hand. You have reference material right in front of you. Right? Do that. Let's go. Sometimes I can actually hit right on the money when it comes to hands. Sometimes uh, I struggle with them, but actually subconsciously, I think this is starting to look like an old. Probably because I have this out, this Punisher figure to help me out. Subconsciously, this look is actually starting to look dreadfully familiar, like a cover of one of the Punisher, which is strange because I didn't get the pose from a magazine. I got the pose from uh, messing around with this in my purse. Oh, I have it right here. He's missing a leg because I just dropped it. These are not the body coons. These are the knockoffs. That's why he's, yeah. Anyways, I would like to get myself a body coon, but so I'm struggling with my anatomy here. Okay, so if I want to all of a sudden have him looking towards whatever is coming this way, but in a oh my god type way, like how do I do that? So this. I don't sketch light enough to erase these, and I don't have a printer to print it out without the blue outlines. This this looks like crap. What are you doing here? Let's see if I can figure it out. Eyebrow, eyebrow. Its head's too big, isn't it? Yeah, it is. I feel it. Okay. So, here, I definitely want it like this face. I'm gonna tilt the chin down. I just want to get something here, kind of figuring out if this works. Chin would be over his neck, so I don't have to draw that. Not so I don't have to draw that. And because his head, that doesn't work because his neck would go here behind and connect to the cranium. Right? I think so. So, it looks like a ghost. Wait, so it looks like a ghost. Because I don't want to let his mouth open. And this is why I'm not Elliot Fernandez, y'all. Alright. No? I don't think so. That pisses me off. God damn it. Alright. Well, wasn't that big of a deal, but it came off. But that was really, you almost seen a tantrum on mine. Just kind of like, I would have probably erased this video. Alright, so I'm not feeling this. I'm gonna come out. No, nope, not that much. Back in the eyes. Still gonna. Why am I struggling so hard with this? It's like having your teacher over your shoulder when back in grade school. Well, not really, because the camera's not up there, but it's alright. So if it comes up, it goes here, have this thing come in here, which is where your ear would be, which means you're gonna have something like that, which triggers here. So does it look right? Does it look right? Did I find the right anatomy in there? This is why I get so pissed off at people who light box their stuff, come on live, and ink their light boxed version of their drawing and then sell it for $50. I won't name any names, but this is why I get frustrated because as sucky as I am at art or sketching comics, I just refuse to do that. I can't cheat because, like I tell my children, you just cheat yourself. How am I going to learn? How am I going to get better if I'm cheating myself like that? And cheating my audience because he's selling it. But if he was to just say, "Hey, look, this is my inking skills. I like box somebody else's art," that's his hustle, and I dig that because I know a lot of artists who do fan art, and that's how they're making their money, making their living, and putting food on the table. So I respect, I understand certain things you do what you got to do, but there is no, even though I know that he's like boxing these uh, drawings and that he's this person that I am actually talking about, an actual YouTuber that I know of. Uh, None of your, of course, your not your Ben Skivers or your Elliot Fernandez. None of them, of course, you can sit there and watch them work live, or you can see it. But this guy literally every time starts off with a video with a. You can tell as an artist, I've light boxed my own work. I know what light boxed stuff looks like because you leave a lot of the detail out because you're going to do it with blacking of inks or whatever. And I just can tell after about 30 days of him coming online and talking about he sold a couple pieces, I'm like, you're not drawing anything. You're lightboxing somebody else's work and you're inking it, and you've gotten people to buy that from you. And I resent that a bit. Should I? Maybe not. There's a possibility I shouldn't have such an opinion about it, but I a little bit flustered when I work so hard and I struggle so hard to be something more than I am art wise, and he can sit there and not tell his customer what he's actually doing. Kind of cheat them a little, you know. If I'm gonna sell this picture, I'm gonna say, hey guys, I'm not the best artist. This is just my original character, and I'm trying to trying to just work out some kinks here. It is what it is. And somebody says, hey, I'll buy that. And I was like, okay, well, you watched me draw it, you know, offer me a price. If I sell that, I don't feel bad about it. Um, but tracing other people's work and then inking it is a little bit um, dirty dog. Dirty dog. Uh, but this person also happens not to ever claim to be an artist. He's just doing it as part of his shtick, his fun. I just wish he would be a little more honest with his audience. Rant over. Not that anybody will ever watch this, and if they do, they won't know what I'm talking about. Because I definitely haven't found that in, say, the comics game community. You have a whole bunch of older artists, and I say older, I mean established, that are just disillusioned with their ability to create. They don't want somebody over their shoulder. It's not a bigoted thing. It's just a hey, I want to be able to say this sucked. You know, I want to be able to say uh, Prince Leia. Wait, hold on. Ripley was a badass, but uh, but I can't hear. But Ray from Star Wars is a Mary Sue. And they get shit because it's, oh, you're just grumpy old man. No, no, you are not producing any. I consume and like a good female character. She has to struggle like a human would. She has to have inner conflict. She has to be a well written character. She can't. And I was thinking about this the other day. This problem didn't start with Ray in this last movie. It started with Ray's first movie, where she immediately went to almost to lightsaber wielding badass, and it's just like, no, you, you're feeding us this because you think we just you know We just jerk off to this stuff. It's just, oh, there's another cool part. There's another cool part. Wouldn't it be cool if, she just really gave it to a what for by grabbing the lightsaber and just being an immediate badass? It's like, no. In the long run, people are more, your audience is more intelligent than that. We want to see the struggle. And I really wish there was more people that would hear this because this is a good analogy. It's one of my favorite that I've always used, and it talks about a butterfly or a moth, but a butterfly coming out of its cocoon. And now you see the butterfly, and you're like so excited, and you go down and you try to tear open the cocoon and help it out, help it escape its cocoon. That butterfly falls over to the floor, jerks and twitter around, and dies. You helped it out of its cocoon. It didn't jump out of its cocoon, become this mighty butterfly wingspan creature that flies its whole life. No, it died. Why? Because a butterfly has to beat its wings against that cocoon. It beats the moisture off it. It has to struggle to break out of that cocoon. The breaking out of the cocoon actually is utilized for something. It builds strength in the butterfly. That butterfly comes out, it spreads its beautiful wings and flies off, stronger than it was and ready to fly its whole life. That analogy could fix so much with a lot of what's going on. You want to just produce somebody that's instant badass, instant Boy Scout, instant Mary Sue. No. Mm. They have to have inner conflict. They have to have struggle. They have to drop the lightsaber. They have to be scared. They People can't immediately look up to them as a leader. That's the most ridiculous thing, male or female, to have all characters just instantly look on upon them in respect, in a glaze of wow, I can't believe this person's leading us. We're so lucky. No, that's no. That's not the way you write conflict at all. It's not the way you write a character's journey at all. Ray, I heard somebody going off on the way she looked. I think they're just frustrated with the character because she actually really looks cool. And we're not talking, whether or not she's beautiful or not, because that's irrelevant. She actually looks cool. She actually, you know, could be a really cool. And and the Star Wars community. Uh, we could totally could under we've already. You're not new. You're not doing anything new by giving us a female Jedi. No, you're not being edgy or new or look at it. Nope, we've had them. Okay, this is the first main character. Okay, give us a good main character. You know, and then the too many cooks in the kitchen issue. I'm really messing this drawing up, but you know what? I've never claimed to be an awesome. I don't like that at all. Uh, comes up here, goes there. I think he's gonna have a beard, and so that's gonna hide a lot. But I gotta lay down my ideas for. He's got that damn bandana. Um, Going off on the rant made me. Now I know why it's so good to have people in your chat so that you can feed off of what they're talking about. But like I said, I'm new, just trying to get feel of it anyway. Um, really wish this was feel that feel I'm feeling. Feel off of it because this is supposed to be like the big out pushed. I'm turning here, twisting my body here, and I had it in my initial sketch, but I'm about to hide this under the panel of the jacket here, so I need to figure it out. What I wanted was now I don't recall what I wanted originally planned to do with the legs, especially now that they don't look as dynamic as they were twisted. I want to do that. I can't be lazy. I have to give them the freaking boots. Goddamn it! You ever give a character something and you're like, why did I have to give that character that? Now I have to draw it. This is also a good thing about me is I'm a little bit of a drawer myself. So when I'm giving something off to my paid artist or somebody who I'm paying to do work for me, there's a certain amount of understanding the fucking difficulty it is to get things um, the way you see them in your mind's eye out on paper, and you can write it, but can you draw that shit? I think it couldn't have been Jim Lee that said that. He wouldn't have said it like that. Jim Lee don't strike me as somebody who complains too much. So yeah, the Scorpion's Tail. I actually have about 10. I call them episodes. How they would fit in a catalog of the comic books, I don't know. Um, but uh, as I get closer to each one, I'm gonna break them out and do the words are hard. I'm gonna do the due diligence to edit them properly, get them, you know, go over them with, of course, the artist, and I'm pretty sure the any artist I collaborate with will have ideas, and there will be certain changes made. But as far as the background story and the lore, that's I pretty much have had that for quite a while, and I also don't like that at all. And I've been building up on it. The the reason all of a sudden the world is, the reason that explains why there's supernatural. Not that it ever said try to say that all there's, there's always been supernatural angels and demons, ghosts and goblins. But why are they in the past, say, 100 years, been more, uh, violent, prominent? I don't like that at all. It definitely gives him a midget. It kind of midget it makes him. Is this the direction I want to go with this thing? Hmm. No. Mm. Maybe I should have went for a more dynamic pose. Maybe I would have, because maybe I'm losing. I'm getting a little bored with this one. I don't know. I wanted, definitely wanted it to be more popping. There was supposed to be bullets coming at him, and he was supposed to be more out there, more dynamic. Nobody is gonna watch this thing for 2 hours. I should have just done a video. Just done a quick sketch video. Probably been less distracted and not made the mistakes. Kind of forgot where I was headed. I was so focused on trying to talk and uh, flesh out my ideas by hearing myself talk. Uh, it's around bedtime, guys. Please forgive me for anybody who does eventually end up watching this. For the fact that my wife's trying to get these unruly kids in bed. I'm about to call it quits here in a second. And I just want to see how a couple of ideas will play out. Does anybody complain about shoes, the way they do feet, or is it just feet? I don't really complain about them, but I'm not that good at them just because it's on my to-do list to kind of that wouldn't work out that way. This would be like this. This would no. This would have to what I'm trying to do. So this would come out like that. Like I said, this was just character design, anyways. This was just playing with ideas. It wasn't gonna necessarily make this a finished product. I'm just was seeing some things. So does that look like it's tucking under? Probably. I think so. Does that look like it's stepping forward? Where would that foot be? Up. Point it that direction. Definitely. Yeah, we're definitely pointing that direction. Get it more. He's wearing. He's gonna be wearing. I still feel like he's too short. He's definitely too short because belly button. Oh, it's supposed to be. That's about. I guess supposedly that's it. Is he missing a finger? What was I thinking there? Well, that looks like. No, no. I'll fix that later. No, it's. I think I'll work on this later. I think when I take a step back from it, I'll probably be able to see my errors better. Um, I just did not do what I wanted to do with this. So, how did Spear end up being a black main character? Um, so simple. Such a simple answer to that. I had kind of the basis idea for it. It's back. I actually intended, still back then, wanted it to be a manga or an anime. So I drew everything like Dragon Ball Z, spiky hair, whatever. Could not flesh out what my main character would look like. The something that the main character is the person that draws your eye, keeps your attention to the arcing story. Because I already knew uh, what I wanted him to be as far as end game, and knew about the biker thing. I knew the cast would be diverse because that just came naturally to me. Um, uh, Very similar to what you see in Comicsgate. You have the you have the Puerto Rican dudes, all kinds of different accents, which is really cool. You have the black dude, you have the white dude, you have the dude that's Christian, you have the dude that's not. Um, you have several different, making up this group. So, and I felt like, what if you had a biker club that was that same way? You know, because their goal, their mission, they're not actually striving to be outlaw, make money, make drugs, do those things. Their goal in life is to hunt things, to protect, to serve and protect, if you will. And so uh, I have all these ideas, I have the foundation, but I just could not come up with the idea for the look of my main character. I was struggling so hard with it, and if you will, try harding it to an extent. One day I'm just at a red light coming out of my neighborhood, so it's pretty quiet. I hear a Harley of some sort, loud bike just come up on pull next to me to turn left, and I turn and I look, and it's a black dude wearing biker clothes better than any biker I've ever seen. I mean, just it just looked sharp. This guy looked like his vest and his jacket was a couple $100s each. One of the things that struck me about this man, and it was all black on black too. It was black leather on black leather. It was really cool, and I never got to see, whether he was, who he rode with, which I'm sure he's probably just a Sunday rider, but he just looked really cool. The thing that struck me was right on the side of his vest was this bright red uh, cross, the Iron Cross, and it was out. It was like inlay, like bubbled out, but there was no circle around it. It wasn't a patch. It was sewn into that jacket, and that thing itself was so well done. It had to cost $100 to embroider that into the leather. So this guy, he had the wallet chain, he had the and the motorcycle too impressed me because it wasn't just your typical, dad chopper or dad uh, cruiser. It was one of those kind of town sport things, roadsters things that really look cool. Really, it's both for around town and kind of got the speed to it. Just he looked like Spear, um, and that gave me my idea. That gave me. I was like, from that moment on, there's no other reason for just that character, that guy owned being a biker, and he looked cool. So if you ever wonder why my main character is black, because he looked cool. That's it. No, no. Basically, like Todd McFarlane said about Spawn, why not? So I don't think it's a big deal today. I don't think anybody will make a big deal of it. But just in case anybody does ask the question of what made you go with it? Well, black dude was just thought he looked cool. Thought he looked cool. I think I'm gonna wrap this up. Um, this didn't come out looking cool as I wanted it to, but I can probably, especially with some look at that head. That head is horrible. Probably when I'm focusing on it a little more, I might be able to sharpen this up a bit. Come out with what I wanted to do with it a little more. But I'm gonna go ahead and publish this and hope that as I get a following, somebody might look back on this, and as my goal is to start working on the Scorpion's Tail and getting people interested in it, so they can come back and see my ramblings and my kind of working it out in my own head uh, of where these characters are gonna go. Anyways, until then, good night and see you on the flip side.